Welcome to this gamblingsites.org how-to video. Today, we'll be providing you with our beginner's guide to getting started playing blackjack. Too many guides to the game get really complicated really quickly. We're looking to avoid that here and get any newcomers to a point where they feel that they generally understand the game. This video will help you understand the way the game is played, how hands work, and go over some very basic strategy to help you get started playing the game. If there's a term used in this video that you don't quite understand or want a better understanding, there's a handy glossary section on our website, gamblingsites.org, that can help you out. So let's start at the beginning. Blackjack is a card game played in casinos where it's you against the dealer. In fact, no matter how many people may sit down around you at the same table, you are all playing individual games against the dealer. Blackjack uses a traditional deck of cards or multiple decks of cards. Each deck features 52 cards divided into 4 suits: clubs, diamonds, hearts, and spades. Each suit has 13 cards, numbered cards ranging from a 2 up to 10, a jack, a queen, a king, and an ace. Numbered cards are worth the amount shown on the card. For example, the 3 of clubs is worth 3 points. The jack, queen, and king, all referred to as face cards, worth 10 points apiece. The ace is a flexible card and can be made to be worth 1 point or 11 points, whichever makes for the better hand, and the value can be changed as the hand moves along. The suit of a card doesn't change its value and doesn't matter in most variations of the game, so you don't really need to worry about matching suits or colors together when you're building your blackjack hand. So how do you use the cards? Well, to start, every player and the dealer will be given 2 cards. Most of the time, only one of the dealer's cards will be shown to the players at the start. Players act first with the goal of having a higher point total than the dealer without going over 21. If a player is dealt an ace and either a 10 or a face card to start, that's a blackjack, also known as a natural, and it's a win. If you aren't dealt a blackjack, then you'll have a turn to play the hand that you've been dealt. After each player and the dealer are dealt their starting 2 cards, you'll have a few options for what to do when it's your turn to play. If you want to take another card to add to your point total, you would hit. If you're dealt a starting hand that's worth 8 points, this is definitely the right decision. Just remember that if you go over 21 at any point, you bust and lose your hand. The other basic option is to stand and stick with whatever point total you have at the moment. If you're dealt a starting hand that's worth 20 points, this is definitely the right decision. There are 3 other options that you have at the start of your turn. If you're dealt 2 cards of the same number value or 2 aces, you can split your hand into 2 separate hands. You'd have to put up an additional bet, same value as your initial wager, in order to get that second hand. Now both hands are played independently. You get a second card for each and go from there. You can win on both, lose on both, or win one, lose the other, or push. The basic strategy table that we always refer to on our website covers when to split and when to not split, but a general rule of thumb is that you split cards that are much better separate than together, like 2 aces or 2 eights. Aces together are worth 2 points or 12 points. Not ideal, but separated, they're worth 1 or 11. That extra card you get as a 10 or a face card, that's 21. Much better. 2 eights together are worth 16, one of the most difficult hands to have in blackjack. Separated, they could be worth 18 points apiece if you get a 10 or a face card as your extra card. Since the 10-point value is the most common value in the deck, this is usually, but not always, the better option. If you have a starting 2-card hand that's worth 10 or 11 points, in many situations you'll probably want to double down. This means that you're doubling your bet in exchange for taking 1 additional card and only 1 additional card. Some casinos will let you double down on any starting hand, but 10 and 11 points are always allowed. The reason you do this goes back to understanding that there are more 10-point cards than anything else, and adding 10 points to a 10-point or 11-point hand would give you an outstanding chance of winning. The opportunity to double your bet in this situation doubles your potential winnings. The final thing you can do as your first move is to surrender. Surrendering is when you agree to forfeit half of your bet and just drop out of the hand. Think of it like folding in poker. While it's technically always an option, it's rarely the correct play. So here's how the game plays out in a typical hand of blackjack. All of the players place their bets, and the dealer deals 2 cards to each player and 2 cards to themselves. The dealer checks their hidden card to see if they have a blackjack. If they do, the hand is over, everyone loses. If they don't, play continues. Anyone who's dealt a natural blackjack is immediately paid off at 3 to 2 odds in their bet. This means that instead of getting $20 in winnings for a $20 bet, you'd get $30 in winnings for a natural blackjack. Some casinos pay at 6 to 5 for blackjack, and we say to just avoid those tables entirely. Next, players can individually play their hands, hitting, standing, splitting, doubling down, or surrendering. If at any point a player's hand totals 22 or more, that player loses their bet and is out of the hand. When all of the players have made their decisions, the dealer plays their hand, and then the bets are settled. The dealer plays their hands a little differently than everyone else. While the player makes strategic decisions in an effort to beat the dealer simply follows a set of rules that are set by the casino and usually printed on the blackjack table. Dealers always stand if their hand is 18 or above. In some casinos, dealers always stand on a score of 17 as well. However, in others, dealers will have to hit on what is called a soft 17. A soft hand is one where there's an ace counting as an 11. Since an ace can also count as 1, a hand featuring an ace and a 6 is considered a soft 17, while a hand featuring an ace, a 6, and a queen would be a hard 17. Think of it like this: a hard hand has no wiggle room, while a soft hand has some margin for error. Regardless, the dealer will continue to take cards until they've either reached a total where they're required to stop or having busted. Their score is then compared to those of the players that are still involved in the hand, and the players either receive their winnings, lose their bet, or push if they tie. One player winning or losing doesn't impact anyone else at the table, since all of the hands are played independently against the dealer. If the dealer goes over 21 and busts, any player that didn't also bust wins. Players that bust when the dealer busts still lose. The rules that a dealer has to play by can give some advantages to the players. For instance, if you have a 2-card hand worth 15 points and the dealer has a 6 showing, you can stand. When the dealer is shown to have 16, they have to take another card, even though they have more points than you. Since the most common point value cards are worth 10 points, which would make the dealer bust if they have 16, this gives the player what we like to call a fighting chance. Earlier in this video, we talked about splitting cards. While we get more in depth into splitting and doubling down in other videos and articles, there are a few points that you need to know right from the start. First of all, you always split aces and 8s. When you remember that the 10 is the most common point value in the deck, having 2 starting hands of 11 is way better than having 1 that starts at 12. With 8s, a hard 16 is one of the worst starting hands to have in blackjack. However, if you split those and get dealt 10s or face cards, you'd have 18, a much better score. On the other end of things, you never split 4s, 5s, or 10s. Having a starting hand worth 8 or 10 points is pretty good because you can assume that your next card is likely going to be a 10. Meanwhile, if you split, that suddenly would mean that you'd get hands worth 14 or 15 points apiece. Not good. Reason you don't split 10s is because having a 20 is already one of the best hands that you can have. You don't sacrifice a winning hand like that in the hopes of getting something that you've already had. When it comes to doubling down, you will almost always want to do it if you have a total of 10 or 11 points. In fact, the only time that you don't double down with one of those scores is if the dealer is showing an ace. It's just so likely that the dealer will end up with a winning hand in that case that you don't want to put more money on the line. In our article for this video, you can find even more detail, but for now you should know the general basics of the game. We have plenty of additional videos and articles for you to make sure you are the best blackjack player that you can be, including plenty more within the Blackjack for Beginners section. So make sure to check out gamblingsites.org for even more on the game.